Shalom Aleichem. We're learning the Sicha Vayelech 1. And there's a lot of interesting footnotes on the Sicha that really kind of struck out. It's always, like an interesting question. There's 54 Parshias in the Torah, and yet we always say there's 53. And there's just interesting footnotes in this Sicha that kind of highlight certain elements on that topic and on others. So we'll start with footnote 3, where the Rebbe is saying that Nitzav Vayelech 1 Parsha. That's why we say there's Gan, Starim, there's 53 Starim in the Torah of Parshas, even though technically there's 54, because Nitzav Vayelech 1 Parsha. Says the Rebbe, if you look at the end of Parshas Vayelech and you look for the Siman, we know that every time at the end of a Parsha it says, 35 psukim, and then there is no Parsha with 35, but in theory, 35 psukim, and then the Siman is a word that has 35. Now, at the end of Vayelech, the Siman is Adoniyah, and that is 70, which is not what Vayelech is alone. Vayelech alone is only 30, Nitzavim is 40. So it's a combination of Nitzavim and Vayelech. That's one interesting anecdote. Another interesting anecdote is in Hour 15, where the Rebbe is saying that Vayelech has a connection to Yom Kippur, not only to Rosh Hashanah, versus Nitzavim that's focused on Rosh Hashanah. And the Rebbe explains, interesting, Al Piyam Mevor B'Pnim, based on what we explained here, this, at least in B'Pnimis and according to Chassidus, you can understand why the Chachamim split Nitzavim and Vayelech and not Matis Maseh. See, Matis Maseh is the parshas, the last parshas before Nitzavim Vayelech that could technically be split. And if you're running out of parshas and you need a split, why didn't you split Matis Maseh, which are much longer? Matis Maseh are much longer. Because ultimately, Nitzavim Vayelech, they have a lot, based on what we said, they have something deeper to split, and that is to combine Vayelech to Yom Kippur. Which again, the Rebbe quotes that there's a Tosfos that explains other things, Sefer Oira, but this is Al Pi Pnimius Inyanim. Next, lots and lots of fascinating Da'aris. Another one, 36, when he's talking about Hakel, and he says every Yidden, all the Yidden, have to be equal when they hear the Torah that is being read out. And he says, like he quotes from the Rambam, that Gedim She'ena Makirim, and people who just converted who don't know, Chayovin Lahachin Libam, they have to prepare their hearts to Lahakshiv Oznam and deep and give their ears a lot of attention to hear, because everyone has to be equal in understanding whether it's somebody who's been at previous Hakels before or somebody not. Afilu chachamim gedolim chayavim lishmaya b'kavana gedolim yiser. Even big chachamim have to have the incredible kavana. Fine. I would just focus. I would just reference Hara 47 in general to look at the Sicha of Chelik Dal that the Rebbe refers to a few times in this Sicha, and then Hara 58, where the Rebbe says that Yom Kippur, you come to the true level, true oifen of Vayeasu Kulam Agoda Echas, we become one bind, that even Yidden, which were till now, or at least as of this moment, were in the tzir, were in the image of Avaryanim, of rascals, of sinners, they become one with the Yidden, and they daven them Agoda Echas. Says the Rebbe like this. Based on this, we could explain again that the reason we say Al Das Hamokim, Al Das Hakol, why do we say it only on Yom Kippur and not Shar Tinius Sibur, other kindness? Even though the source of the din to say Al Das Hamokim is what the Chazal say in the Kisses, that Kol Tainus, any fast that doesn't have Paisha Yisrael, any of the sinners of Yidden, is not a Tainus. So then technically, every Tainus you should need Paisha Yisrael. Why just Yom Kippur? Because Dafka and Yom Kippur explains that Eval Pi Pnimis Inyanim is revealed the Achtus of every Yid. And the Rebbe says you could find a hint to this in the reason that we say chelbaina, which is one of the spices of the ketores, reicha, that had a terrible smell, and yet we have to put in the ketores. And what is the main avodah of Yom Kippur? One of the main avodah is ketores. That's what it is, the main avodah. That's what you brought into the Kodesh HaKadoshim. And says that Rebbe then this explains why it has to be daka min adaka. It has to be super, super well grounded, which refers to daka min adaka, the most grounded, the most pure of the neshama, the etzem of the neshama, and that's where the actus of Yisrael happened, and that's where they're atoned for, and that's why you can have the sinners with each and every one of us, which is just a nice pshat. And finally, in our other 66, the Rebbe focuses on the Maila of the Achdus of Hakel over the Achdus of Sumas B'Sheva. Hakel's only next year. We just entered Shemitah year. He says, in Hakel, everyone comes. But Simchas Beis She'eva, there's differences. Different people with different roles. In Hakel, it's absolute equality. And sorry, I said it's finally, but another that's worth looking at is R70. It's a famous shtickle Tanya. The Rebbe over here is talking about that because you're preparing to Yom Kippur, then the love for every Jew has to be in a way that not only do you look over their da, know that even when you see the da, you know nevertheless how to bring out love without limits and without, any logic, any agendas. And this expresses itself in an incredible amount of effort to help that person achieve that. And he quotes from Tanya, Perek Lamed Beis, that you should pull them with love, and maybe you'll be able to pull them to Torah. Even if not, you still got the mitzvah himself. Which reminds me of a vart, I think it's in the book of the Mendel Futterfass, where he says, there was three tzaddikim in the generation, many tzaddikim, but three tzaddikim in the generation of the Alter Rebbe. First, there was the Barditchever. The Elik of Barditchever didn't see any bad. No, sorry, Zusha Anipoli didn't see any bad. He had a bad life, but he didn't see it. Levi Yitzchak saw bad and made it look good. In other words, he was the Melitz Yosher of the Yidden. And Alter Rebbe saw the bad, acknowledged it's bad, and helped them do tshuva. Same Nekuda.